What's up, YouTube? This is Black Critique at you again with another political topic. I'm doing this because, I am a little bit reactionary. Usually there's a lot of bullshit that these Black Republicoons be talking about, and I let it slide because it's not that really big a deal. They're just mascots for white supremacy in the Republican Party. But here I think I needed to say something to really correct the record for those who may not be that in tune with politics right now as far as what's going on with Joe Manchin. So, as we know, right, or may not know, that Joe Manchin and Republicans is what's blocking Biden's Build Back Better plan, right? Biden is weak. So some members of the Republican Party is weak. I'm an independent. I'm really not invested in either party, especially the Republican Party. The Democratic Party has weak leadership and has a lot of issues, right? So, but right now, what they're doing is a good thing as far as like the Build Back Better plan, right? Biden did his job as far as like pushing the bill for, I think it was $3 trillion. I could be wrong. Don't put me down for that. But he did what he had to do as far as the Build Back Better plan and things like that, right? So it's come to a vote when it comes to Joe Manchin is holding everything up. This was the weakness of Joe Biden, right? He could make Joe Manchin do it, according to him, because they're supposed to be friends and things of that nature, right? So right now, it seems like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema seem to be the president and the vice president at this point. There are things that they can do in order to make this happen and push this through. So the false narrative that we get in front of Republicans, right? The Negroes like so-called black media, Brandon and Princess Dinus and all these other people who they don't want to talk about, is that progress is being held by Republican constituents and Democratic and Republican plants like Manchin, right? So we're going to see here, and we're going to have the White House secretary tell you what's going on and what's the challenges that we're having so far.
I think there are multiple paths to reaching the president's climate goals. We have every intention of passing Build Back Better, which includes enormous climate provisions. I would note that there are a number of steps we have taken without legislation, and certainly will continue to build on that, including setting a bold target to cut greenhouse gas pollution in America 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030, tackling super pollutants, phasing down HFCs, and addressing methane leaks, rallying the world to focus on methane in Glasgow.
All these things that Joe Manchin is opposed of. Why? You ask, why is he opposing this? Because he has invested in fossil fuel companies, just like most Republicans. There's some Democrats, obviously, like in this case, that do too. But the difference is when it comes time to deliver for the people, right? You come together as a collective in your political party to push a certain bill. And I think what that affected in a way where they were cutting down how much Biden initially proposed. And they were cutting it down because of, Democratic donors, right? But at the end, this is a half measure, which is still not good enough for Joe Manchin.
We stood with auto workers and America's big car manufacturers to roll out plans to boost electric vehicles and create opportunities to save car owners money. We put America on track for one of every 2 cars sold to be zero emissions within the decade, and we jump-started offshore wind. I share all of that because that...
Offshore wind, so, windmills and things like that, other alternative energies, right? Remember, Trump and most Republicans were against it. Why? Because they were invested in coal. They were invested in fossil fuels. So alternative energy was their enemy. Remember, Trump is not stupid. Only you got like idiots, right, that would say that Trump is a genius. This motherfucker said that windmills give you cancer. This is the shit that he's saying. He's not even smart. Fine, you invested in fossil coal, right? And fossil fuel and fossil coal and all that other stuff, right? So you need to let people know, hey, this is not really the thing right now. An intelligent person would never say, well, windmills give you cancer. Only an asshole would say something like that. Not even I think that's disrespectful to assholes, because everyone knows that. Like, this Trump is not smart. So I just want to add that as a caveat to why Republicans, right, and a lot of people who are heavily invested in coal and fossil fuels are against this bill.
That has been done without the benefit, the vast majority of it, of legislation. There are also components in the infrastructure package and law that will also help take steps forward, including the largest investment in passenger rail, helping reduce GHG emissions, building a national network of EV chargers.
Passenger rail. So she's talking about the infrastructure bill, also talks about allocating money to cities that have public transportation, like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, I think certain parts of California where there's a population there is mostly black people. So black people would benefit from this, right? Black people if you're in the city, take a lot of public transportation, right? So it works out for black people and people as a whole, right? So these are things that they don't want, because these are forms of alternative energy. And again, this is helping the people, right? Republicans don't talk about helping the people. They get involved in identity wars, CRT, critical race theory, which is not a thing, demonizing other people. Republicans have no fucking policy to help the everyday people except for fear them. Look out for that. Look out for this. Fear them. Look at those black people. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, while they're doing all types of crazy shit, thinking that JFK Jr. is going to raise from the dead and take the presidency. Same thing with Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump's going to get the presidency back. The election was stolen. All types of dumb shit.
Electrifying thousands of EV school buses, investments in port and airport infrastructure to repair, maintain, and reduce congestion, largest investment in resilience, replacing America's lead pipes and service lines, and the largest investment in tackling
lead pipes and service lines. Remember that, Michigan. So Donald Trump cares about black people so much. What did he do for Michigan? Right? The Michigan pipes, they're still messed up since Obama. Obama fucked up a lot of shit, right? Since Obama's time, right? Those pipes in Michigan has been messed up, and Trump is sending his orange ass eating McDonald's and tweeting he didn't do nothing, but he cares about black people. Don't listen to these Republicans.
Tackling legacy pollution. So I would say it is clear from the president's accomplishments and agenda to date that climate and the climate crisis is going to continue to be front and center for him. We're absolutely going to working to get Build Back Better done, and we are not going to wait to continue to look at a range of options.
All right, so that's what you have right there. So it says, on Sunday, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia dealt what may have been a fatal blow to the core of President Biden's legislative agenda when he said no to the Build Back Better plan. I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation, Manchin said during an interview on Fox News. Excuse me, right? But they keep saying, Senator Manchin, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat. Again, if you guys don't understand, there's spectrums, right? There's political spectrums, right? He's a Democrat, but he leans more towards the right in the Democratic sphere. So much to the point, if his constituents in West Virginia say like, hey, look, I voted Manchin because he's a Democrat, but all the policies and what he's fighting for and what he's fighting against, they're not going to vote for him next time as a Democrat. So Manchin is either not going to run again, or he may run on a Republican ticket, right? So out of all places, this is what he's doing. So he's able to spill his guts out on Fox News and things like that. But when people will challenge him in everyday life and things like that, what you're doing, he runs and gives you all these excuses. But anyway, Manchin, by many measures, the most conservative Democrat, like I said, in the Senate, has bristled at both of the policy proposals and the overall size of the plan ever since the initial proposal to spend $3.5 trillion over 10 years was unrevealed earlier this year, right? So it was $3.5 trillion in the beginning. The White House sustainably revised the package to appease Manchin. This is where I hate Democrats, and it's so fucking weak. Why am I appeasing you? Because they all fucking Democrats, they're all crooked. So they all got donors, right? So the donors must have been on some like, oh, that's too much money that you want to allocate to other people and it's gonna cut into our pockets, right? So to appease Manchin, paring back the total spending to 1.75 trillion, right? But that passed the House of Representatives last month. It includes funding to fight climate change, establish universal pre-K, lower health care costs, extend the child tax credit, and more. But it dropped measures mentioned. See, so again, this is the problem, right? So remember, Republicans, they don't want this. They don't want this. They're cutting back on all these provisions, right? They don't care about pre-K. They don't care about climate change because, that's a hoax. Because they're too stupid. They listen to Donald Trump. So that's a fucking hoax and all that other stuff. Child tax credit, right? And the COVID relief bill, that all Republicans voted against that. They all voted against that. So this is the problem that we have here, right? The weakness of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and anyone in the Democratic Party to stand to him and say he's a weak old fuck, that you need to push this through and you're weak as shit, you know what I'm saying? And Republicans blocking it as usual, right? So this is the problem that we're having right now, right? So the voters of all 50 Democratic senators are needed to pass the plan, giving Manchin a de facto veto over the version of the bill that he opposes. So he's kind of, he's like it's like a stalemate right now, and he's the person right now that is holding everything up, right? So this is one reason. So I just want to say this is the real reason why, not the shit that these Republicans, right, that are on YouTube saying all types of shit. They have no receipts. They can't prove it. What they're giving you is their opinion. I'm trying to give you what's actually happening in politics right now. Here is another example that I'm giving right now as far as like what's going on. Please do not block my channel or during this video. I call fair use on it. I'm just using it for educational, political purposes. These views that I have are my own as far as this commentary that I'm giving. Like I said, please don't block my channel. But like I said, I'm going to give you what is really going on as far as like this interview. And I'll give like little critiques and here and there and things like that.
I'm very pleased to have joining me for a God's honest conversation, the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Hey, Charlamagne. Good to be with you.
My first question is a question that after the pandemic, when I ask, I expect a real answer, okay? You ready?
Okay.
How are you?
Oh, thank you for that. And I know you really mean it. I am well. I am well. I am blessed. There is a lot of good that we can and have done, and I feel energized about continuing to get the work done. So thank you, and my family as well, and that's all I could hope for. So thank you for asking.
Let's talk about some of that work because, it's people like me that were motivated to vote for you, and we feel as if you've disappeared. If not disappeared, been silenced. Is that the case?
Not at all. I mean, even this week, there were two things that actually more than that I'm extremely proud of that has been the product of months and months of work. One, something you and I have discussed before, the issue of maternal health. So I brought the issue of maternal health to the front stage of the White House for the first time, talking about what you and I have talked about, that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth, Native women twice as likely to die, rural women 60%.
I don't know if she brought all that to the forefront. All that black talk she was campaigning on nicely disappear. Now, now she was Indian since she's been in office. when faced with the black person asking questions and things like that that concern black people, all of a sudden she's black again. So now it's like, I don't know if she's been doing that, but
more likely, and we talked about it in terms of, look, this is an issue that needs to be addressed both in terms of the racial bias in the medical health profession, but also we need to address it in terms of the fact that after a woman gives birth to another human being, it's not right to say she's only going to get 60 days of coverage through Medicaid for what she might need in terms of postpartum treatment, whether it be depression or just exams. So we're saying let's extend it for a year.
In Medicaid, so all black people are on Medicaid. I like. Did you catch that? Like we need maternity leave to be extended, right? Maternity leave to be extended by your employer and things like that, and the healthcare industry to recognize that, things like that. But Medicaid is a government-funded healthcare system, so yeah, very funny style.
Here, dealing with an issue that uniquely affects black women, fibroids. We don't talk about this stuff publicly, but black women know that it is a real issue in terms of their health and their life. So we're bringing that to the public stage, and this has been the product of work I've been doing for many years, even before I got to the White House, but bringing it to the stage. Another issue, I just did an event yesterday about lead pipes. Well, look at the issue of lead pipes. What we know is that especially our children who are in public housing and public schools are more likely to be exposed to lead in paint and in pipes. And so we've put through our infrastructure bill a lot of resources.
Again, a lot of quote unquote our kids are in public housing. Again, more pandering, more saying black people are, again, on Medicaid because we don't have any jobs, right? So we have to be on Medicaid, and we're living in the projects and we're living in public housing. Again, this is something that the Build Back Better plan is supposed to be addressing, but I find this conversation a bit insulting.
Resources into saying, let's clean up those pipes. Let's save the health of our children. And why? Because I've met mothers and fathers all over the country, from Michigan to Ohio, all over the country, who talk about the fact that when they turn on that tap, not at all. I mean, even this week, there were two things that I'm actually more than that I'm issues that I care deeply about is what we have got to do in terms of public transit. I've been working on the infrastructure law that we now have. Black folks as commuters, as workers, are 4 times more likely than other workers to go to work on the bus or on the train, on public transit. And we need to improve that. Again, I've been talking with folks around the country.
I mentioned this before. If you live in the cities, right? But this helps everybody. This doesn't help black people. So that's another pandering talking point, because the cities is full of other people besides black people, right? Especially if you're in New York, where everything's being gentrified and they're making things look nice now because white people are in there. I mean, places that I know that I used to live in there. I've been there since I was like 5. Everything looked the same and always been the same until like 10, 15 years ago. They started, about 10 years ago, until they started improving everything, because white people are now infesting on black neighborhoods. So now they're making everything look how it's supposed to always look, which is decent.
Around the country, I know personally from having, been a bus rider, that what you see is that in underserved communities, folks are more likely to have to transfer to get to work because there aren't adequate bus lines coming into their community. I know that when you are 5 minutes or even 2 minutes late to catch the bus, in certain communities, you might have to wait a whole hour for the next one to come through, which means you're an hour late for work and may be looking at pay doc, or maybe even losing your job. So these are big issues. They take a lot of time. And I'm about saying let's take on the tough issues, but let's do the hard work, which is not just about giving a speech, but it's about actually getting the job done.
Absolutely. You get a lot of criticism. More criticism than any VP I've seen in recent memory. But there's nothing you've done on your worst day as VP that compares to, Mike Pence's worst day as VP. But you seem to get crucified for every little thing in the media. Why do you think that is?
Well, I appreciate you asking the question, but let me just tell you something. My focus is going to, I can't tell you how many places from Chicago to Charlotte to Detroit where fathers and mothers bring their little girls and little boys up to me and they say, I want to meet Kamala Harris.
I don't care about
and
this. Yada, 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 yada.
It's too expensive for too many people. It has been this way even before the pandemic. And we need to bring the cost of living down. So Build Back Better is saying, let's bring the cost of childcare down. That working families shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income in childcare. We're saying prescription drugs are too expensive. We know, you and I know, I have family members who have diabetes. It's too expensive to pay for insulin, and insulin is the only thing that can save a diabetic.
Now remember, excuse me, Joe Manchin, and I believe his daughter, they have a pharmaceutical company called the EpiPen. And, they did a lot of shady dealings in the background to raise the cost, to corner the market of the EpiPen. So, yeah, Joe Manchin is a huge pain in the ass to progress, right? As well as all the Republicans that are siding with him.
Diabetic's life. And so we're saying bring down the cost so that folks wouldn't have to pay more than $35 a month for their insulin. We're talking about elder care. So many folks are raising their young children and taking care of their parents. And it is impossible.
Also, with that said, remember Donald Trump, he campaigned on he's not going to touch Social Security. Donald Trump was dipping into Social Security. So he was taking all the money you've been working, like me, I've been working since I was like 14, right? And all that money that you accumulated and you saved up, he's about to cut Social Security. Or we're not about to get Social Security by the time they're done with it.
Possible to take care of their basic needs without having some assistance, and that means bringing the cost down so people can afford to live and satisfy their basic needs and their responsibilities. So we're going to keep pushing, and we're in extensive talks across the aisle with both folks in terms of Republicans and Democrats, but we're not going to give up on it at all.
But where's the pushback on Senator Joe Manchin? Why is he allowed to constantly hold up President Biden's agenda?
I mean, look, here's the thing that is an important fact, which may sound technical, but it really is an important fact. We have, folks know we have the White House as Democrats, the House and the Senate. In the House, we have, as Democrats, a majority. I believe as of today, it's by 3 votes out of hundreds of people. In the Senate, where there are 100 senators, we are split 50-50 in terms of the Democrats or independents who caucus with the Democrats and the Republicans. And that makes me, as the president of the Senate, the tie vote. Every vote matters, especially in the Senate, and we have to listen to the voices who represent their districts. And so that's what we do, and then we negotiate. Some people said we would never get the infrastructure deal done, but we got it done. Some people said we couldn't get the American Rescue Plan done, which was $1,400 checks for folks, where we expanded the child tax credit. A lot of the way we did that was also informed by some previous work I did.
Right, which every Republican voted against the child tax credit. The extra money that people get in their bank accounts on, I believe it's the 10th or the 15th, all Republicans were against that. They all were against that, but you got a bunch of Republicans saying that the Democrats is bad, Democrats is evil, and all that other stuff. Democrats ain't they ain't that great, but give credit to where credit is due. That's all that I'm saying.
To say, people have to pay, parents have to pay the bills every month, so let's get them the child tax credit in payments every month so that they can get through the month. We got that done. Some people said it couldn't be done, but it takes negotiation, and that's what we have to do. Sometimes it is frustrating. Some people say watching Sausage get made, you think that's difficult? Well, watch a bill get made. It's frustrating, and sometimes it's just not pretty.
At what point do we stop being politicians and just be real with the American people, Madam Vice President? Because we know Joe Manchin is ruining this country. The stuff he's holding up progress on are hurting people. They're hurting black people in particular. If Democrats allow Joe Manchin to continue to do this, how do you convince black people to come out and continue to vote for y'all? He's holding up progress. We know this.
Hey, Charlamagne, here's the thing, though. Mm-hmm. I think it's a mistake to try and think about this only through the lens of Democrats versus Democrats, when the fact is Republicans are consistently and unanimously standing in the way of progress.
Very true.
It is my recollection that not one voted for the American Rescue Plan. It is my knowledge that we couldn't get them to even agree, not one, to debate on what we were trying, except maybe Lisa Murkowski at some different points, to debate what we need to do on voting. Couldn't get, because of Republican opposition, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to get up for a vote. Something.
So again, she's bringing up some good points here. The Republicans were against all these things that's going to help black people. But again, you got these Republican mascots, right, not telling you the truth or being deceptive, or they're just plain idiots and mascots for Republicans, that all these provisions are being blocked by Republicans, right? So the thing that she's bringing up is very true and is telling. I just also wanted to mention that.
Something I helped write with Cory Booker. So let's put the emphasis.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, like the I forgot to mention the Voting Rights Act, to vote, so black people to vote. So let's say, okay, whatever, I don't like voting or whatever, things like that, then you're kind of stupid. But let's say, you know what, I don't like voting, in big elections or whatever, stuff like that, like presidential elections and stuff like that. It really doesn't impact me. I kind of get it. But where it impacts your life directly, we're voting for your congressman, your senator, your mayor, things of that nature, right? So if they block your civil liberty, your civil right, your inalienable right for you to just vote, we're going all the way back to 1865. We shouldn't have to be going through this, but Republicans, they always, they don't like black people voting. We know that already, right? That's why they do all the gerrymandering. So she does bring up a good point.
We need to improve that. Again, I've been talking with folks around the country. I know personally from having, been a bus rider, that what you see is that in underserved communities, folks are more likely to have to transfer to get to work because there aren't adequate bus lines coming into their community. I know that when you are 5 minutes or even 2 minutes late to catch the bus, in certain communities, you might have to wait a whole hour.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I took it back.
And this is so much bigger. Even before, who voted to extend the Voting Rights Act. And now we can't get anybody to stand up and say, this is about our democracy. Let me tell you something. I start every single day reading the Presidential Daily Brief. It's called the PDB, often with the president in the Oval Office. What is in that is classified information about threats to our national security and hotspots around the world. I have had direct conversations with prime ministers and presidents and a king, some of whom I have had over to my home. And they are around the world saying, what's going on with you in the United States? What's going on with this voting situation? What's going on? Because right now we are debating whether democracies actually can survive, or is autocracy better, which is basically one person or one group telling everybody what they should do.
Which is Republicans, right? Republicans demonize you for not believing what they're believing, doing what they're not doing, I'm not saying that Democrats don't do that, but it's just disproportionately Republicans doing that. They want a monarchy, they want autocracy, they want all these things that they want to do because this is the Trump era, which is still continuing to this day.
This is what's at stake right now for America. And you can tell I'm a bit frustrated, more than that actually, that people are making this into a partisan issue instead of stepping up to say, save our democracy. And that means stop messing with people's right to vote like they're doing in Georgia and Texas. And this is so...
All where Princess Dinus is. He lives in Georgia, but he's he's a Republican through and through. I don't know how a Negro like that could live in one of the most racist states in the country and have a political affiliation that he does. It's very weird and disturbing. So these are the Negroes that are blocking progress here.
So much bigger and generational impacting. And people have got to come together, and they need to be held to account, which is what you always do. We need to hold people to account, and that includes looking at the Republican Party.
I agree.
Where do you stand?
I agree Republicans are blocking progress, but when I think about it, it's like we went out, black people, we voted, got Democrats in the White House, got Democrats the Senate, but it seems like a Democrat, Joe Manchin, is always blocking progress. Like, if there's no hope in making Joe change, like, why not say that so at least we know who the problem is? Because I feel like you get villainized the way I feel Senator Joe Manchin should. Me personally. In the media, you get villainized for silly things like earbuds when he's actually stopping progress. Why not just tell people that so we know who the problem is? They're pointing the fingers at the wrong people.
Because I'm telling you, I'm literally, the problem is we have right now in America a party, I'm not talking about all Republicans, but the Republican Party that is drawing a line and basically standing in the way of what is in the best interest of all the people. On the issue of voting, for example, and I can't talk about this enough, on the issue of voting, this is about everybody's right to vote. We're not telling people who to vote for. And there's in places like Montana, passing legislation to make it difficult for students to vote, Native Americans
she's
to
just
vote,
repeating
Black
herself.
people to vote. That with force and violence took over our nation's capital to prevent the declaration of an election where the people have voted. These are the things that are happening, and I just want to urge us to really see where the attacks are coming and who is doing the attacking, so we can hold them properly responsible for what they're doing to harm all of us.
I agree. You talked about a lot of the things that, y'all have done with the administration, but, it's a few things still left on the table.
Charlie. It's Simone. I just want to know if this has to be our last question.
Okay. What happened to that student loan money? What happened to the $10,000 promised to the students for student loan debt? Why did they renege on that?
So I know you had Secretary Cardona on recently, and I'll tell you, he is working to increase relief for students. And
Democrat Joe Manchin is always
win because you manipulated the system to make it difficult for certain people to vote. Mm-hmm. That's what's at stake right now.
Absolutely.
And it's a mind and it's real, and we need to deal with it. I remember, I'm gonna date myself, but I had that little coupon where I'd have to pull out the coupon.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get past the whole student
check with it
debt
every
thing
month.
without playing the whole
that's
thing.
Real. That is real.
We need you to be the superhero that saves democracy. Somebody has to push back on Joe Manchin. That guy is stopping progress. He's ruining democracy. Are you willing to be that superhero? Because what scares me is if voting rights don't pass, or the Build Back Better plan doesn't pass, or police reform doesn't pass, I doubt you're going to get black people to go out there and vote in 2022 and 2024. And, Trump will be president again. What's the plan for all of that?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on the seriousness of these issues and how people take these issues seriously. And so we're going to have to keep fighting. On voting rights, we need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We need to pass the Freedom to Vote Act and be relentless about pushing for that, which is what we have been doing and what I certainly am going to keep doing. We need to keep pushing for what we got to do to really reform the system that we know needs to be reformed with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But, again...
This just sounds like a non-answer. They could do all of this, especially the Police Reform Act, right? Joe Biden doesn't believe in police reform or defund the police, right? Okay, defund the police is a bad phrase, even though when you look at what defund the police means, it makes sense. But let's use another phrase, right? Police reform. Joe Biden doesn't believe in any type of police reform, even though he says so. No different from Trump or the Republicans or anybody like that. So this is all bullshit. Certain things they could do right now, today. That's the thing I loved about Trump. Legal or illegal, he's going to get shit done, right? All those executive orders that he first did in the beginning was very helpful, right, to his constituents, right? So Kamala Harris and Joe Biden saying, "Oh, we could do this." No, certain shit you could do right now. You just don't want to do it.
Republicans stood in the way to get that done. So what did we do? Well, through the Department of Justice, we banned chokeholds and carotid holds. We said that law enforcement at the federal level, where we had the power to do it without Congress, that they have to wear body cameras when they're serving warrants. We put in place investigations of police departments that are active investigations right now.
Chokeholds are already illegal. I don't know what state would be like, okay, chokeholds are okay. But hey, that could just be my ignorance.
Now, we are supporting consent decrees. So we are doing those things in the face of Republican opposition, but we cannot give up. None of us can. And the reality is, because the issues are too serious and they impact everybody every day. And I agree with you. They're very serious.
Who's the superhero that's going to speak against Joe Manchin? No. I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I don't think the vice president can hear you. It's Simone. I'm so sorry, Charlamagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear me.
You can hear me? Can you hear me now?
All of a sudden, there's technical difficulties when the conversation was going right. I mean, he was asking questions, very, very good questions, and we know Kamala Harris doesn't do good under pressure when it comes to questioning.
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. You got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlamagne. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden.
She's getting mad and all upset. She knows that's not where he was coming from. She knows he would never say that Joe Biden is not the president. She's getting knocked off her square.
Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce Black child poverty by 50%, on track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations.
She's not answering the question.
And require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras. It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and paint because our babies are
She's just reading the script all over again. That's not answering the question. She already addressed that.
Suffering because of that. It is the work of saying people who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity that anybody else does. So let's improve that system. It is the work of saying that we have got to bring down prescription drug costs because folks who have diabetes should not be dying because they don't.
She said that already. This is a non-answer.
Have enough money in their pocket. It's about saying Black maternal mortality is a real issue that must be treated by everybody, including the White House, as a serious issue. I hear the frustration, but let's not deny the impact that we've had and agree also that there is a whole lot more work to be done. And it is not easy to do, but we will not give up, and I will not give up.
I just want you to know that Madam Vice President, that Kamala Harris, that's the one I like. That's the one that was putting the pressure on people in Senate hearings. That's the one I'd like to see more often out here in these streets. Thank you for joining us.
No. That was that. Not one time she mentioned Manchin. That was not an answer. Now he's pandering. Now he's pandering to her bullshit. Because he asked her a specific question about Joe Manchin fucking everything up. She's gonna rehash everything that she said the last time. That's not an answer. That whole thing was pretty much what you see right here. Not as a horse towing the load, but basically they're just a bunch of jackasses at this point. The interview was so-so. It was a very so-so interview. So anyway, in conclusion to all this, I just want to set the record straight. If you're getting your information from these so-called pro-black goons that say that they're for the benefit and therefore the love of black people, when they give you a very bad political outlook and take on what's going on in as politics as a whole. They're caping for the worst party, which is the Republican Party. Like I always say, is an open racist party that has all the racist groups that support it. Name it: QAnon, Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, alt-right. They all are down as Republicans. They consider themselves Republicans. Not one racist group identifies as Democrats, right? Democrats have their own issues and stuff like that need to, hey, if you want to leave them, leave them. Really don't care. Thou teach them a lesson. They ain't doing shit anyway. But I'm here to set the record straight. When you see a black man or a black woman caping for Republican hard, as some of these Negroes do, you need to run away from them and stay away from them, because they just gonna damn you. All they're doing is saying, yeah, I know it feels bad, but let's go live up under master so he could abuse us and rape us and do all these horrible things to us, more conveniently, instead of him going all the way out into the field and dragging you to the shack or into the woods. Let's be all up under him. You know what I'm saying? So these are just sound like a bunch of scared niggas to me. It's part of my French, But that's it right here. I'll end it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Peace. See you guys later.